Hi, everyone. Happy Epiphany. It is the season of the Magi, as you can see from the hanging behind me, the time when we think about those ancient Magi who traveled from Persia, from the East, to visit and pay their respects to the baby Jesus, according to the story, according to Matthew's gospel. And I love the story. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible because there's just so much in it. Mysterious strangers from the East and a mysterious star that guides the way, and strange gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh that they bring for Jesus. And although some joke that if it were women, they would have brought disposable diapers and a casserole and things like that. But that wasn't the point of the story. And then other aspects of the story as well, that they had to flee from the terrors of King Herod, who meant to destroy Jesus, and use the Magi to help him to find Jesus. And they managed to find their way home by another way. A lot of symbolism in this story, and archetypes and ways of thinking about our own lives today, following a star and journeying, going home by another way, all those kinds of things. So I was putting away my nativity set for the year, although it is still the season of Epiphany, but gotta clean up the office and the apartment. But anyway, as I was putting away the Magi, I thought I would want to talk about them for just a little bit more, because I do believe, interfaith wise, they are an important part of the story. Now, there's dispute about this, but there is a strain of thought that says that they were Zoroastrians. And that would not have been out of the ordinary, really. Persia was the place where Zoroastrianism flourished. So it's very likely that they could have been. Some think that Cyrus, the Persian who freed the Jews from their captivity, might have been a Zoroastrian. Could be. It's fascinating to think about, even if you disagree with the conclusions. There's a wonderful book. It's called The Three Testaments, that I was privileged several years ago now, a bunch of years, to review. And it talks about the Torah in Judaism, the Gospels in Christianity, and the Quran in Islam. But the really interesting thing about it is, from the very first chapter and throughout the book, it talks about the influence of Zoroastrianism on these three religions. And oftentimes we don't, at least in Christianity, or I never learned anything about Zoroastrian influence in Christianity or Judaism, but it's quite evident from looking at the sources and reading some of these ideas that it could definitely be a possibility, and certainly well worth looking into. I remember some years ago, we were planning an interfaith conference, and I was supposed to be reaching out to different communities here in the Bay Area. And I remember trying to contact a man who was Zoroastrian. And when I was telling the planning committee about that I was having trouble reaching the Zoroastrian community, he sort of like looked at me and said, "We don't need Zoroastrianisms, like Zoroastrians, like they were some just Martians or something. We don't need them." But there are Zoroastrians here in the Bay Area. There are Zoroastrians throughout the country, and certainly in Iran and other places. So, of course, they're not as big a religious community, perhaps, as it used to be, but they are still around. And to be able to really look and think about who they were and who they are, and how they have influenced who we are, the concepts in our own traditions that possibly came out of Zoroastrianism. So as I'm thinking about my Magi and my Nativity Magi, um, putting them away for another year, and yet still really um, thinking and wondering and pondering about how a religion that maybe a lot of people don't think about very often or think has anything to do with us, it actually does. It actually does. And how wonderful that in the Christmas story itself that Matthew wrote, there you had the convergence of three religions. You had Judaism, certainly, Mary, Joseph, all of them were Jews, Jesus, but Jesus also being the Christ child. So you have Christianity, before there was actually a Christianity, but there he is. And then you have these Zoroastrians showing up at the stable to visit the baby Jesus. The convergence of three major religions. And what a wonderful event that was. And it was guided by this star that we might think of as wisdom, as the guidance of, I like to think of the star in my heart. For me, that's Christ, but it could be something else for someone else, but it's that wisdom within. And we do call them the wise men. So I think we can be wise women and wise men and everybody else too. Um, so I think we can do some more thinking about these magi. And even though Christmas is over, it is still Epiphany, still the Epiphany season. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to keep following the star. So I hope maybe I piqued your interest a little bit about the Magi and maybe Zoroastrianism. Until next time, the Interfaith Pastor, blessings. Bye-bye.